Good, so we're going to start. Welcome to the most important place in the world. We're going to figure out what that means. My name is AnaRina. Ana im Ayin with Ayin. It means he answered. Rina with joy. It's that kind of joy that you wait for something and you think it's probably not going to happen, and then suddenly this breakthrough comes and you go, yeah! You know when you get to your house and you do that little dance of joy? That's what Rina actually means. It is also described when the Jewish people come back to Israel. And they say that their mouths were filled. Our mouths are filled with Rina, with joy. That's the name. Okay, so I'm the luckiest girl in the world. Today you're doing two things. You're meeting the luckiest girl in the world. Because I'm here to tell you about the most important place in the world. Not because I say so, because the Bible tells us so. So we need to figure out what that is. Now, up to 150 years ago, everybody thought that the ancient biblical Jerusalem lies within the confines of the old city. So the question is, where is the ancient biblical Jerusalem and what happened 150 years ago? To understand that, we have to go 2,000 years from the destruction, correct? 2,000 years slowly but surely we lost the ancient biblical city. And she's actually telling us that. She has a conversation with God, and the Jewish sages teach us that Jerusalem has a soul. She speaks to God. You can actually see that in Isaiah 49, where she says to God, "You forgot me." And he says, can a nursing woman forget her children? Even these may forget, but I will never forget you. And in an eteratzon, in a time of favor, I will remember you. So 2,000 years, nothing, only a promise. And then suddenly, 150 years ago, Queen Victoria wakes up one morning and she wants to know what's going on in Jerusalem. Now, the only thing that we knew at that stage was the old city. That's the only thing that you could actually see. We see in photos from 1920, 1930s, that there was nothing on this hill. So we are speaking about the Ottoman Empire. Let's appreciate the Ottomans for a few seconds. Here in the land of Israel, you had to pay tax. During the Ottoman Empire, you had to pay tax on every single tree that you had in your backyard. So that also made that a lot of people didn't want to have trees, okay? So in the last 90 to 100 years, the Jewish National Fund has been planting trees all over Israel. So any tree lovers, you can go and hug a tree here. They're as new as we are. And we are growing and we are getting stronger every day. Back to Queen Victoria, Ottoman Empire. So she sends a guy with the name Charles Warren to come and figure out what's going on in what is known as Jerusalem over here. Two reasons. One reason always political. The second reason, she was a believing lady. She believes in the Bible and she wanted to know what's this Jerusalem and Israel thing. So she sends Charles Warren. Charles Warren comes here. The only thing that he sees is the old city, Temple Mount, and he wants to get there. But then something happens that the city of David, the ancient biblical Jerusalem, teaches us that we can take with us. A few stories that we will learn today. The first story is sometimes God comes and he shows you something that you very much believe, this is what God wants, I'm going to pursue it, I'm going to go for it, and you put your whole life into it. And the moment when you get to a place where you basically in tangible reach of it, God redirects you. And you go, but what did I do wrong? Thing is, you didn't do.
That's how we got here today.
You didn't do anything wrong. God takes you on your mindset to move you until to the place where He knows this is where you can reach. But then He wants to show you something that's more important on His agenda, and that was to discover the ancient biblical Jerusalem. So Charles Warren gets here, and the Ottoman says to him, "No way that you're going to get into Temple Mount." So he decides that he's going to get himself a tunnel, because if you go in all the old manuscripts, there are tunnels leading into Temple Mount. So he says, find a tunnel, get back in, get the treasures, what do you want? So he decides to come to the southern hill. Now, in that time, we've already rediscovered the Gihon spring during the Mamluk era. So it was already open, and he saw the Mamluk, this opening that during the Mamluk era, and he went for the spring itself. He went into Hezekiah's tunnel for a little bit, and he saw that there's a hole in the ceiling, and he said, that's my way in. I'm going to go through this, and somehow I'm going to get myself a tunnel, and I will tunnel myself back. He waits 20 days, and this is in 1867. This is very, very important because it's exactly 150 years. 1867.
100 to 67, 1967.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But now what do we have? Because you guys were 1867 to 1916. We have Alan B coming to
Jerusalem.
liberating Jerusalem. That's 50 years. Then from 1916 to 1967, reunification. It's a jubilee cycle, another jubilee cycle, and from that jubilee cycle we get to where you are standing right now, in the end of the next jubilee cycle. Can you imagine how excited we are when we see all these things? Amazing. Okay, so he gets here. He sees this this hole in the roof, and he decides he wants to get in there. He waits 20 days for scaffolding. He climbs up this massive natural fissure, and he pops out into something, a massive cavity. He swings around his torch and he sees, wait, this is massive, and whatever this is built is right on top of the Gihon spring. And he realizes that he just discovered whatever structure it is that they used in the ancient times to protect the water source. Now let's talk about that. We are talking about the term Tel Aviv, Tel Dan. Anybody knows what the word Tel means?
It's a pile.
Yes, but what is it? It is a man-made hill, right? It's not just a normal hill, it's a man-made hill. It means it was city built upon city, built upon city. That's what Tel actually means. And you get it a lot here in the Middle East. Why? Why would you go and build another city upon a city? Why not going to another more beautiful hill and build it over there?
It's already level. Well, it's got a strong foundation.
There we go. That's a very good reason. Another reason?
If it was good for them before, so it's good for us now.
Basically the same, yes.
You want to get rid of. You want to
Political, making a statement. But what is the one thing? Okay, so they say basically that it's already established, so I'm just going to build on top of it. He said to make a political statement, I conquered you, I'm building on top of you. And then we said, what is the most important thing that you need for a city? Water. Okay. And the Gihon spring was here, so the city had to be close to a water source. The Gihon spring, where do we hear the name Gihon for the first time? In the
Garden of Eden.
Yes, one of the 4 rivers. Disappeared right now, but according to the Jewish tradition, that river still feeds the Gihon spring today. And the Gihon spring is very important. We will go and see the significance of it soon. Okay, so that's basically what happened. And he realized that he discovered it. And we're going to see the place where he actually went in. Now, let's speak a little bit about Jerusalem itself. Where do we hear about Jerusalem the first time in the Bible?
Is it Abraham when he go up to sacrifice Yitzchak to them? Was it that here?
First time where you hear the part of the
word.
name. First time. Yes, Salem. Okay, the first time that we hear about Yerushalayim, Salem in Hebrew is Shalem. Okay, first time we hear about that is Melchizedek. Abram comes from the north. He just rescued his nephew Lot, that gets into trouble a lot. Okay, and they come from the north and they meet here in this valley called Valley Kidron. But in the Bible, it's called Emek Shaveh, the Valley of Equality. So when you come to Jerusalem, Jerusalem always equals people out. There's no more important, less important, not more poor or rich or whatever. You stand before God in this place equal. Okay, they meet here, 2 things happen. They break bread together, they drink wine together, that's Abram and Melchizedek, and then something else happens. Yes, the first tithe ever paid to Jerusalem by Abram to Melchizedek. That's a very interesting story because the sages teach us when God made the world, 9/10 of beauty of the whole world he put in Jerusalem. That's how beautiful Jerusalem is, was and will be. And we will see that beauty again. Okay, but it's only 9/10. In comes Abram, he pays a tithe and he completes that. Why? Because we are partners in God's work. Okay, so very, very important. Now let's see how that translates into what we do today. So I have Shalem. Shalem sounds like which word?
To pay.
Shalom.
Shalom, and shalom means peace. Okay, that's it. Yes, much better. Shalom, peace is a very, very surface level understanding of the word. Shalom actually means to be whole on the deepest part of your soul, to be complete and to know exactly what God wants for you, and to be able to see the next person next to you as that as well, with no chips on the shoulders, no baggage, knowing who is who, and being able to work together. That is what shalom actually means. So now you understand what it means when we greet each other with shalom. So that is the name Shalem, completeness. Now, where do we get to the other part? We go one chapter further, and we have this time Abraham being promised a son. Son is born, you know, the whole story, how long we had to wait for that. And then on a certain day, God says to Abram, I want you to bring your son, your only son, your beloved son Isaac, and I want you to offer him. Something is offered in its place. A ram. Okay. And Abram decides that he's going to call this place something. He calls it Hashem Yireh. Okay. Yireh means will make manifest. So here we have God will make manifest Shalem. God will make shalom manifest, or the fullness of God will manifest from this place. But also the root means, Yireh is also reverential fear. The fullness of the reverential fear of God will pulsate from this place. This is what the name Yerushalayim actually means.
Can I just say,
Yeah.
Yireh is Jireh. People know it as Jireh.
Okay,
Jireh.
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 Now
It's
we're in
Yireh.
Hebrew
Yireh.
and in Israel, so from now onwards we're going to say it correctly. Yireh. Okay, thank you for that. Okay, so now we have the name Yerushalayim. But did you know that, okay, let me first get to this. David comes to the city and he takes the city. And what does he call the city? He calls it?
Sion,
He takes the stronghold of Zion and he calls it
David City.
the city of David. He didn't call it Yerushalayim. But when he goes to the Psalms, he speaks of her as Yerushalayim, because that's the more spiritual name of Jerusalem. Also, when we look into the Bible, we see almost 600 times the word Yerushalayim, but only 5 times the word Yerushalayim, and that's what we call it today. What's the difference? Any Hebrew speakers?
Yeah.
Plural. There we go. Einaim, Oznaim, Ktafaim, Yerushalayim, 2. Okay? What does it mean? It means the Jewish sages teach us that there is a Jerusalem on earth and there's a Jerusalem in heaven. Okay? Now the Jerusalem in heaven is beautiful. So beautiful, I mean, it is even described. But, very interesting, the Jewish sages said that God built the heavenly Jerusalem in honor of the earthly Jerusalem. That means this one is much more important. The heavenly Jerusalem is only like a certificate on the wall for what is actually over here. Because as it is in heaven, so it's here. But we have to understand how important this place is. So important that in the Talmud it goes on and it says, God said he will not enter the heavenly Jerusalem until he can enter the earthly Jerusalem. But we lost her. So that means that we have to find her again, and she has to rise. And suddenly you see Isaiah where it says, "Hitna arim me'afar kumi," shake off your dust, arise, take your rightful place, O Jerusalem. Not just your place, your rightful place in how God sees you. And that's what's happening right now through the excavations. She is shaking off the dust, and we are starting to see this city again. Jeremiah 30 says, "V'nifneta ir al Tila." Tila means her tell. The city will be built again upon her foundation, upon her tell. And the verse goes on and it says, and also the palace in its proper place. Guys, for all of this to happen, we need to find all those places, and it's happening right now through what we see. I quickly want to speak about David, because David had to come and take Jerusalem. It was one of the last cities that was taken during the conquest of the country. And David was ruling for 7.5 years from Hebron. And then all the tribal leaders saw, after a big mess during the Judges, where the people just felt like, we can't go on like this, we have to be unified, and Saul couldn't do it. So they go to David in Hebron and they say to him, "Please, can you be our king?" And he says, "Sure, but I will do it from Jerusalem." one of the last cities being taken. Why did he decide to move from Hebron? All the other judges plus Saul ruled from their hometowns. David says, no, I will do it from here. 3 reasons. First reason, this was one of the most difficult cities to take. That's why it wasn't taken yet. We have a valley on this side. I have a valley coming from the dung gate that you can't see. We will see the depths of the valley when we go to some of the excavations. But this city is enclaved between these 2 valleys, and they meet at the bottom, and it's very difficult to take. So difficult that the Jebusite king said, not going to happen. I will put the blind and the lame on the walls to mock you. But we knew that it was time, and David was God's chosen, so he took the city. The second reason is Jerusalem lies on the border of Benjamin and Yehuda. It's neutral ground. It's the Washington D.C. It is the Switzerland. It means that David says, I will not play favorites, because we already saw that Jerusalem equals everybody else out. There's nobody important. Even a Jewish king, guys, is not like any other king to rule over his people. Jewish king has to bring the people to God. That's his job. That's why he needs to walk around with the scroll, the Torah scroll with him all the time to remind him who he is. The third reason is he knew about the Jewish traditions. The Akedah that took place here, where Abram had to bind Isaac, and also where Jacob had the dream of the ladder going up and down, right here on this hill. So what does it mean? This is the place where heaven kisses earth. This is the connection between heaven and earth. And that connection is still important. Can I pray to God whenever I want? You betcha. But there is something more when the chosen people, during chosen times, have to come to a chosen place. It's called a date. You want to go on a date, on a coffee date? You have to meet the person at a specific time, at a specific place. And these are the meeting times of God. I wish that we can go more into that, but we don't have a lot of time today. But this is why Jerusalem is so, so important. So here we have, Sha'alu Shalom Yerushalayim. Pray for them. Pray for the wholeness of Jerusalem. Now we understand what it actually means. Because this city is rising, you will see the excavations, and she has to become whole. Right, and then it goes on and it says, for the sake of my brothers and my friends, I will ask for your wholeness. We will understand a little bit more about that. Let's go to the next place.